Thank you, Vlad. Hi. So let's start with a story. So last summer, my family and I went on a road trip down south. We were heading towards our resort by the mountains when somewhere along the way, the conversation between my wife and I became like this. Honey, we seem to be going along this route for quite some time, and we don't seem to be getting any closer to the resort. Do you think we might be lost? And I go, come on, we can't be lost. We might have made a few false turns earlier, but I've got GPS. Don't worry. And then she goes, but look at the kids. They seem a bit restless, tired, and hungry. And I'm about to explode. Don't you think it's a good idea if we could stop somewhere and ask for directions?
Oh, yeah.
And then I go, and this is the part where it goes down south. Nah, trust me, I know my way. I've done this many times. We've been to this resort hundreds of times, and I've got GPS. We'll get there as soon as you know it. And then, obviously, the rest of that day and the trip didn't end up well, especially for me. Most of us will find this situation pretty familiar, don't we? I hope not many, but sometimes we do. Don't you wish we can rewind these times and perhaps use different words or use words in a different way with our loved ones and our co-workers? Why should we be concerned with how bad conversations affect us, make us lose sleep, damage our relationships, or worse, resort to violence? Oh, by the way, there's one small error in this picture. This is actually a photo of us in another argument following the road trip. No, I'm just joking. So why? Well, I believe it's because everyone communicates differently. There is diversity in the people that we live and work with these days. We come from different backgrounds with different priorities, motivations, and cultures. We also have technology that provides us with a large variety of communication modes, devices, and the networks that we use. So all these present certain complexities to the effectiveness and the feeling of pleasantness in our communications with one another. So I'd like to share with you 4 communication styles that influences the effectiveness and outcomes of our interactions. Hopefully with this knowledge and some practice, you will be able to understand and deal with different styles. So the 4 communication styles that we have recently learned are analytical, driver, amiable, and expressive. Now this is just one of several communication styles in the area of behavioral science. So if you know some other models in the past, feel free to compare with what I'm about to share. If you haven't, just use this. So a few things about this model. First, I'll describe words and behaviors that reflect observable human emotions and characteristics. There are certain tensions and challenges between styles that are diagonally opposite of each other in the slide. But I will offer some very simple tips on how to overcome the challenges. Last, we don't necessarily belong to one style forever. We often start with a default style, and as the interaction or the conversation progresses, we tend to mix with other styles as the situation sees fit. So which style do you think you are? I'll run through each style with a common scenario that we know of, which is sprint planning, and describe how team members might behave using each of these styles. So let's start with analytical. So the analytical person likes being rational. He likes being cautious, having lots of information at his fingertips, thinking and deliberating on decisions because he needs the time to be confident of what he's about to understand. Oftentimes, an analytical person wants to be perfect and wants to be right. So, for example, an analytical developer in the team could be deliberate in estimating the scope of work in a sprint because he wants to spend lots of time breaking down the feature tickets, understanding and validating the options. The cost of this might be extensive planning time and lack of commitment from other team members. the driver style, possibly like me. So a driver is decisive, he values achievement, he focuses on being progressive, being ambitious, focusing on the end goals rather than the journey to those goals. Oftentimes, a driver might be seen by others as being tough, exclusive to decision making, and perhaps even dominating conversations. So, for example, a team lead who might be described as being a driver kind of person might have the habit of dominating the planning conversations and making most of the decisions for the team. He thrives on establishing medium to long-term goals and perhaps leaving out crucial implementation details or issues. Next, the amiable style. An amiable person is full of feelings. He is a good listener, he is inclusive of others, collaborative, and sensitive to everyone's emotions and motivations. Oftentimes, an amiable person needs acceptance and perhaps even hesitate or yield in favor of decisions made for them. So maybe a tester could be amiable, and he could be sensitive to the working relationships between team members and wants to involve everyone in the team in making decisions. Collaboration is heavily promoted by an amiable person, so he spends a lot of time understanding one another before they all come to a conclusion. Last, an expressive person. An expressive person is full of energy, is confident, fosters team spirit, is open to ideas, is full of creative options, is flexible to taking different approaches, but he could often be seen as being impulsive or over-promising others. So say an expressive developer in the team, yeah, he might be good at coming up with different approaches to implementing solution, but he might not be spending enough time to make well-informed decisions. So which one are you? Now, understanding that there are various characteristics and behaviors of each style, if you were to approach someone with a style that you recognize from these words, how would you interact with that person better than before? So these are the simple tips that I'm offering. If you happen to be working with an analytical person, then be prepared, be accurate, be patient in the way you interact with an analytical person, because he might be taking a lot of time before he comes back to you and says yes. If you have a driver, then be efficient. When you go to him with suggestions or with a question, provide actions and goals. Be clear and concise. If you have an amiable friend, then be warm and agreeing. Provide genuine feedback. Be agreeable and be open to his or her feelings. If you have an expressive spouse, say, and if you want to have the permission to buy the next PlayStation 7, well then be stimulating, reflect her energy, sell the big picture, and be open to alternatives such as Scrabble or something. So this is the model, and these are the principles behind this model of communication styles. And these are the tips. Now, resources. I'd like to share with you a few resources that I found quite useful in my journey to being an effective communicator. One of them is this website called Crystal. Crystal curates social information about friends, family, co-workers, your enemies, whatever you like, and give you recommendations on how to interact with them. So if you sign up, and if you pick on somebody like, say, the President of the United States, not for long. So for example, for me, if I were to have to interact with him sometime soon, might have to use key phrases like, I understand how you feel, or I would love your support. What do you think his style is? Seems to me it's like he's an amiable person, right? And if I were to be writing to the president or speaking to him in person, then this website is able to recommend the tone of voice, the choice of words, and the pace in which I speak to him or write to him. Next, the Leadership Guild. So I highly recommend that you approach the Leadership Guild should you need help in effective communications, because they are a group of passionate people who have built a huge library of resources and make their own time available to you to help you in areas such as influencing and communicating. So do seek them out. Last, there are handouts that will be made available at the end of the room, at the end of this session. And I highly recommend that you take a copy each, make copies of the exercise sheet, and fill them up depending on the situation you're in. So fill them up, circle the expressions or the behaviors that appeal to you, that reflect what you are in situations such as when you're working, when you're at home, or when you're at play. Better yet, make more copies and share with your friends, your co-workers, your loved ones. Have them fill up about what they think they are. And so maybe there will be opportunities for you to understand one another better. So I want to leave you with one last thing, which is the word flex. Remember, everyone communicates differently, so it is important to sense the style of others and flex with them. When others realize that you make a conscious effort to complement their communication styles, they will reflect the action back to you. So be like water. Water is a molecule that exists in 3 different states. It's able to fit in any space that it's in. So flex like water. So with the skills and the knowledge of these communication styles and some practice, hopefully we'll be able to gain benefits such as better teamwork and outcomes, less conflict in our world, and maybe, at least for me, more enjoyable road trips while getting lost. Thank you.